haven't filmed a video in like 3 weeks. I don't know how to do this anymore. Hello everybody, my name is Maura. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't been here in like 3 weeks, so sorry. Today is April 2nd, March reading wrap up time. You guys know the drill, like this isn't new, okay? Like we know what we're doing. You're watching this and you watched my March TBR video and you're like, Maura, you only read one book on your March TBR. Mind your business. I'm gonna dive in. I feel like I read a decent amount. Oh wait, I actually read a lot. Well, maybe not a lot. I read 12 books. The first book that I read, which was the only book from my March TBR that I actually read, was By a Thread. And we're starting off this video on not a great note because I was so excited for this book. This is workplace enemies to lovers, and like everybody hypes this book up so much. And I gave this a 1 star. I did not like this. I didn't like the dynamic between the characters. I didn't feel anything between them. They were so childish. But the thing about Lucy Score books is that her characters are like in their 40s. Reading Things We Hide from the Light, I was like bamboozled that Knox was like 43 or something because they act so childish and then they throw in the actual age of the character. I know these characters are older, but I would have never thought that they were in their 40s because they act like they're a child. So frustrating. Didn't love this one, which was a big letdown because everybody was like, this is her best book, this is a 5 star. We'll talk about this later, but I just don't think her books are for me. That's okay. I have one more book by her, is in my physical possession. That is the final book in the Knock 'Em Out series, so I'm gonna read it just because I have it. I think I'm done with Lucy Score books unless there's a specific one that like really like gets my attention, but otherwise I don't think it's gonna do it. I don't know, like I don't like being negative about authors. I just don't like what I've read by her so far, and her books are long. Like, do you see how long they all are? They're like long 500 to 600 page romance books that don't need to be that long, and characters that bother me, so I just feel like it's not worth it for me to keep reading her book. I'd rather let other people talk about them that have better things to say, because I'm feeling like 2024 is gonna be like a more positive me. That's not happening. Anyways, the next one is Grab from the Light, just because I was already talking about Lucy Score. I liked this one a little bit more. I think I gave this like 2 or 3 stars. I gave Things We Never Got Over like a 3 or a 4. Like I did like that one. The only problem with this book is that, again, the characters were just so childish. What I've found about books in this series so far, there's really good build-up between the characters and good build-up in the plot, but the issue is at the end of the story, it's like she realized that everything was already, like this book was already so long, and she's like, well crap, now I gotta wrap it up. So the last like 3 chapters is like where most of the plot always is, at least in this series, is what I'm seeing so far. Don't know if other people can agree with me, don't know if other people are mad that I'm saying I don't like her book. I like this one more than By a Thread. I didn't like this one more than Thing We Never Got Over, but I think I like the mailman character in this book better than in the first one. Then I read a few books because I was traveling to Portland. Oh my god, look at this. Wearing my shirt from Portland, that wasn't even planned. But I was traveling to Portland and I had quite a few layovers and I was in the airport for a while. I was reading on my Kindle a lot and people were like blown away that I'd read so many books in that week that I was traveling. I was not reading when I was actually in Portland like doing things. I was reading when I was at the airport and when I was on the plane. That's what was going on. I spent quite a bit of time in an airport or in a plane. So I was reading a lot on my Kindle to pass the time. These next few books are Kindle Unlimited books. The first one that I read was The Night Shift by Annie Crown. This one I'd seen a little bit about on Instagram. I haven't really heard too much about it elsewhere. I gave this book 2 stars. The main thing about it, like the main kicker on the back, it says the bookworm and the basketball player are about to meet their match. This girl works at her college library. Her name's Kendall. She's like obsessed with reading. It says that she spends her Friday nights exactly where she wants to be, with her head buried in a spicy romance novel while she works the graveyard shift at her university's library. She's in there doing her thing, doing her work, and then Vincent Knight, captain of the basketball team, turns up with an injured wrist, a sour mood, and a pressing need for poetry recommendations for a class he hates. He's like the popular jock. Basically, he's going to her for like poetry recommendations. While they're there, they end up doing like assignments together. If you just want like an easy, cute read, like it is an easy and cute read. If I want like an easy and cute read, like I'm probably gonna go and pick up like a Sarah Adams book. You know what I mean? If you want something cute read on your Kindle, here you go. It does say Night Shift is a 75k word. Like I know what that means, but it sounds wrong. You know what I mean? Like 75,000 word. Sweet and spicy, single POV, college romance, perfect for fans of Emily Henry, Hannah Grace, and Elena Armas. I will say, don't think that that's true. I'm not even like an Emily Henry stan. I feel like this cannot be compared to an Emily Henry book, and it's marketed here as like a sports romance, but it's not. Don't go into it thinking that you're getting like basketball, because you're not. It's just the fact that he plays basketball, but that's not like a huge plot point. You know what I mean? It's just to show that like she's the bookworm and he's the jock. I read Desire or Defense by Leah Brunner. I gave this one 2 stars also. I think what made this a little, not weird for me, but just a little like, I had a chuckle every now and then. Strongly inspired by the Washington Capitals hockey team. So I think the dedication said something about Tom Wilson, and then basically this book is heavily inspired by the Capitals and Tom Wilson. And as a Capitals fan from Maryland, like that is just, I had to giggle every now and then. It says the notoriously angry, grouchy DC Eagles defenseman that just can't keep his temper in check. Not to mention that the guy on the front of this book looks quite like my man Thomas here, okay? He ends up being forced into coaching this like young hockey team, like all of these books. Older sister of one of the boys on that team ends up being like this love connection with him. Thing is, like, the younger brother is like a huge fan of the Eagles and like a big hockey fan. The only thing that like made me not enjoy this book was it felt like, I hate like acting like this. I feel like it makes me sound like I'm not a girl's girl, and that like that's like a big fear of mine, is like not seeming like somebody who like supports women. Like that's like terrifying to me. I am a girl's girl, okay? I'm a hockey fan also. I've read plenty of hockey romance books even before I was like super into hockey. You don't need to be very hockey knowledged to be able to read a hockey romance book. It's literally just the fact that the person plays hockey. There might be a few terms here and there, but they're always explained well. They were like teasing her for not knowing like hockey terms, but it was like a whole chapter of them being like, so what's this mean? The amount of like things where she was like making it her personality, like not knowing anything about hockey, but like her younger brother played for so many years and she's also dating a hockey player. I'm like, how do you not know anything? Then I read Camera Chemistry. This one I gave 1 star. I had high hopes for this one, not really. I feel like it could have actually been pretty good. It says, when I agree to help my best friend with a photo shoot involving a stranger, I don't expect to hit it off with the guy posing in the photos with me. So both of them end up like agreeing to do this like hot photo shoot with each other. Then they end up falling in love like instantly. This is like a 150-page book. They're like suddenly in love. I think if this was a longer book, I could have been really interested in it. I think it's just the fact that it happened so fast and it was insta-lovey and like 150 pages. I was like, this is pure lust. And then they're like, I'm in love with you. Like, you're not. This is lust, babe. Where's like the emotional connection? This one I was really excited about. Forbidden Devil by Melissa Ivers. I really liked this book at the start. Like, I was really enjoying it. It's like a second chance romance. This girl dated this guy back when, and then they went their separate ways, and now she is the owner of his hockey team because her dad either died or her dad like handed it over to her and her brother. I don't remember full details. Long story short, she becomes the owner of the hockey team, and now they're back in the same like premises, same vicinity. The whole plot of the book was like the men around her and the men in the NHL being like, women can't do this, women can't be owners of teams, women can't work in sports. That's a huge like debate anyway, but the reason I didn't like it in this book is because there was no like positive connotation afterwards. It was just like her being assaulted, her being attacked and like made fun of and hated and criticized, but it wasn't really like she was doing anything for herself. It was like the main male character would like come in and save the day, you know? So then it's like you're writing this book about like how women are like belittled in certain industries, but like the hero is the guy, you know? So I was like, not really my thing. That made me pretty angry. There was also just like a lot happening. I don't remember there being trigger warnings, and I was like, how did we get here? Fine Rivals. I had been wanting to read this book for so long, but I kept putting it off because I kept saying, oh, I'll read it on my Kindle, and then I was like, oh, I'll get like the real physical copy so I can tap it up. Do wish that I did that, but I'll reread it. It's whatever. I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. First 5 star of the month. Went into it not knowing too much. I just knew it was about these journalists that were like writing to each other. There was like magic typewriters involved, and like their messages were just like going to each other. When I first heard about this book, I definitely thought it was more fantasy, as in like fairies and things like that. So when I found out that it was about like journalists, I didn't know if I was still gonna like it, but I was like, well, I'm just gonna read it anyway. Oh my god, I loved it. When does this take place? Okay, I need like a time frame. It's just telling me where. Okay, it's not telling me anything. But if you read it, like, you'll get what I'm saying when it's like old-timey vibe. Workplace, enemies to romance, but not in the way that Lucy Score did it. This is so sweet because these characters are like 18, 19 years old. Like, he knows that she's writing to him, but she thinks she's writing to her brother who's away at war. Then she ends up like running away to like go try to find her brother, and she's like writing for the war. He still knows that it's her. He goes out and like finds her, and she's like, what are you doing here? And they're still writing to each other, but she still doesn't know. And they find out. Ugh, like, it's so good, and I don't want to spoil anything, but like really it's a romance. And I just loved the writing in this one so much more than I thought I would. It's told from third person, so when I was first reading it, I was like, not really my thing. Like I don't love third person. I feel like it was so perfect for this book to be in third person. I think because of the setting and the fact that it's like kind of old-timey vibes, I was like, this makes sense. Like I feel like this is nice. And because of the whole idea where like she doesn't know that he knows, but he knows and she doesn't know, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it made sense for it to be in third person because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten as much from Rowan's like perspective, and Rowan is the guy. I am really happy with this book. I loved it. I'm really excited to read the second one. I love this one. I've recommended it to everybody so far. I started Throne of Glass. I started with Assassin's Blade. Say what you want. I feel like this made sense for me to start with Assassin's Blade because apparently it gets really sad if you read it this way, and I love a good little heartbreak every now and then. I talked about this one in reading series video, right? I think it was that video. I loved this one so much. I was not expecting to enjoy the Throne of Glass series so far, like as one book so far. Like I wasn't expecting to be like so enthralled in the series. I figured I would be pretty interested in it because I did read all of ACOTAR and I really enjoyed it, and I really like Sarah J Maas's writing. From one book, I was like, this is crazy. And this is also like novellas. You're not getting like a whole lot of plot, but this is kind of the main character Selena's like origin story, like the love that she had and like how she kind of wound up shifting gears, which is why I think it was a good choice for me to start with this one, because seeing like her positive views on everything and then seeing how in the future she's gonna end up apparently being this like crazy assassin, like I think that's really beneficial to the story. I definitely had a little bit of a heartbreak in here and it was sad, but boy was I eating this up. I did in fact reread Magnolia Parks. Okay, I was in a slump after Assassin's Blade. I didn't read anything for like 2 weeks, so I was like, I need to reread a comfort book. This isn't a comfort book. This is like, nothing about this book should be comforting, but I reread it and I tabbed her up like crazy. Obviously this one was a 5-star. I'm not going to go into heavy detail because I've already read it. I've already talked about it on this channel. I am filming a reading vlog though where I talked about it a little bit more. I just adore this series and these characters, and I did add like foreshadowing tabs in this annotation process because I've mentioned before that there's so much that happened throughout the series that's hinted at in the first book, and just the way that everything's like strategically planned is so smart, and I just love Jessa Hastings and her writing and the way she like describes feelings. There's so many quotes in this book that just make me freak out, but I also love these characters so much. An unpopular opinion apparently. Like this is BJ's point of view. Forget the metaphors about the jumper cables and the sparks. For all of them and none of them, Parks and me, it's in the stars. And then he's talking to Tom. Tom says, it's the gunpowder thing from Shakespeare. Chemistry is what makes you, no doubt, man. It's unparalleled. It's maybe what'll kill you though. Just the way that like love is talked about in here. And also I reread this after like crazy things happened in my life. So that was heartbreaking and I cried. It really just like resonates with me and hits with me, which is a little bit terrifying, but I just love that book so much. Then I had an interesting little read. I read The Kraken Sacrifice. I got this in Portland. I talked about getting it in Portland and how I was excited about reading it. It's by Katie Robert and it's super short. This was so strange. I think I gave this 2 stars. This is about this girl who basically sold herself to like the underworld. It like the first part of it happened so briefly that like I had to reread it a few times because I was like, how did we actually get here? She basically had a crappy life and was like, I'm over it, send me away. And so for 7 years she's supposed to be living with the Kraken King. It's honestly funny though because in like the deal she's making, apparently she's like yapping a lot. The guy she's like signing the contract with just like put her to sleep because he was like, you're talking too much, and just like put her to sleep. Super funny honestly. But the smut in this, I think because there were tentacles involved, the wording and the word choices made me quite uncomfortable, but I like had to laugh about it, honestly. I kept reading because 175-page book and I was not reading too much in March and it was on my TBR anyway, so I was like, we're just gonna read it. It was an interesting one. Wouldn't recommend, so sorry for saying that, but I don't know, there's a lot of like content warnings and trigger warnings for a book that's so short, which I just found kind of crazy. Butcher and Blackbird, another book that I'd gotten when I was in Portland, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave this 4 stars. Everybody kind of hyped it up a lot, saying that it was this like witty, funny romance book between these 2 serial killers who kill serial killers. It kind of puts you in a weird spot where it's like, am I supposed to be like rooting for these characters and like their career choice because like they're not like they're killing people, but they're killing the bad guys. So it's like, what do I do here? What do I do with this information? They are from like different towns, I'm pretty sure. Well, he's from Ireland actually. So he's from Ireland, but in like the US they live in different towns is what I'm trying to say. They end up like killing together, or like they meet up because of this one killer in the beginning of the book, and he ends up being like a huge fan of her, which is so funny. And he's like shaking her hand. He's like, I knew it was a woman, like I knew a girl was doing all this, and everybody said it was a man, but I'm your biggest fan. Like, it was so funny, really, like really witty. I really liked these characters. I just adored Rowan. Like, he is so cute, but also like so protective of her. And they're serial killers, like she can defend herself, you know what I mean? But he is like, I have to step in, like I want to be there. She was in Boston for like meetings. He is a cook, the chef at a restaurant. He was like paying this boy to deliver food to her house that she was staying at in Boston, and then she'd be like, where'd this food come from? And he's like, oh, I have no idea, but since it's there, like let me teach you how to cook it, right? He doesn't go over to like teach her, they just do it over the phone, and it's just so cute. I don't know, something about like these serial killers also being like such softies for each other is like so entertaining. I really liked this one. Super funny, but honestly there was a lot in here that like really hit with me, and then I realized, like, I was like, oh, this is like a funny book about serial killers, like read a line that was like really heavy and it hit with me, and I'm like, okay. The last book that I read this month, I actually finished like 10 minutes to spare in the month, and that was Dungeons and Drama. I gave this one 4 stars also. This one is kind of like Check-In-Mate's hotter older sister. This one, it is another YA romance, so you're not gonna get spice. So when I say hotter older sister, I just mean I like this one better, okay? There's not like smut or spice in this, it's a YA book. But this is following Riley, who is this like musical theater lover. She ends up getting grounded for like 2 months because she took her parents' car without a license and drove it to a concert. So me, like so me, right? So she ends up having to work at her dad's store, which is like a gaming store. She meets Nathan. Well, she already knew Nathan. Nathan went to her school, and Nathan is like buddy with her dad because he works at the store with her dad. And Nathan's like big into Dungeons and Dragons, and they have this Dungeons and Dragons group. She ends up seeing her ex-boyfriend Paul. What a name. Her ex-boyfriend Paul is with this new girl. She spits out that she's dating Nathan, and Nathan's like, what are you talking about? So they end up fake dating because Nathan has a crush on Sophia, and they end up fake dating to make Sophia jealous so that she'll be interested in Nathan, but also to make Paul jealous, just to like get back at Paul because she doesn't want to be with him anymore, but just to get back at him. So it's fake dating, really cute. Like the characters are all super nerdy. There's this one part, somebody in the group like kind of found out about Nathan and Riley. Are you into Nathan now? John asks, because this is too much change for our group. How are we supposed to defeat the Hydra with all this drama going on? Like, they're so cute and funny, and it's just like this really sweet, lighthearted book. I really enjoyed it. It's simply vibes. Like, is this the best YA book I've ever read? No. But it was just cute and fun, and I needed it after I read this book. Oh my god, like I needed something like this. This was so cute. That's everything that I read in the month of March. I'm hoping that in April I can get a little bit more in check and actually read more of my TBR. This has never happened before where I don't finish my TBR. I'm always like pretty good about it. Hopefully in April I'm better about it. But thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys when I see you.